Welcome to another Triathlon podcast, the podcast that brings the electrifying world of triathlons right into your headphones. Journey into captivating conversations, share the excitement of race recaps, enjoy the humor only a triathlete would understand, and join us as we debunk myths and bring you the bare, thrilling truths of the triathlon world. So feel your heart pound, breathe in anticipation, and get ready to dive into the world of triathlon. This is another Triathlon podcast. Enjoy the ride.
Here we are with another Triathlon podcast brought to you by Mana Endurance. We are excited to jump in. We've got some fun updates this week of what we've been getting up to, especially Josh had an epic weekend of some testing all around that we want to hear about. And Fede has been training away, getting ready for his upcoming race. So we're going to jump in. We don't have a ton of racing to talk about, or, well, any, because it's the quiet time of season, but we definitely have a few things with our social media and what the F post. And we will roll right into it. Josh, tell us about your weekend. What did you get up to?
All right, where do you want me to start? So we've been talking about this weekend coming up, and I flew out to Phoenix on Wednesday night and had rented an Airbnb with my coach. And right off the bat, Thursday morning, we were up bright and early getting our full body composition scan. So we went to DexaFit in Mesa, Arizona, and got scanned, and really cool stuff to go through. I mean, in and out of there in about an hour, which but stuff that I'd never had done, and really figure out, like, we can all have these high-tech scales and things like that. And my scale at home was somewhat close, but nowhere near locked in with the scan that I had done, and going over the body fat percentages and where some of the fat is that you have and where some of it is that you can tweak, and you start playing with some of the sliding scales, and where can you kind of hone in your performance by gaining some more muscle mass in certain areas and things like that. So that was the kick off the whole week, and that really kind of set the table for the rest of the testing that had to get done in order for the rest of the metrics that we were going to be using and testing to really get put in play and be spit back out for my performance peaking and training. So we went from there right over to the pool at Arizona State and got in the pool and got our ears pricked and ready for some lactate testing and started doing some warm-ups. It was really neat too. We walked in, Arizona State's got one of the best pools in the country, like 2,000 seat stadium and things like that. And the team was in there swimming before when we showed up. And as soon as they were out, we were in for the 1 hour public open lap swimming, and grabbed a couple lanes with my coach, got all set up with the gear and the mask and the lactate testing. So jumped in the pool, and we realized my struggle in the swim was due to a lot of technique problems, and even my 300 warm up. I got out, got my lactate tested, and it was like, is he superhuman or do we have an issue here? So
what kind of numbers were we seeing there?
Oh, I think I was my first number was like 8.8. So we've got some drills and a lot of things to be working on. We're going to get me floating and streamlining a lot better, which will be a huge change. But come to find out, that 8.8 is about what I pushed out at like my peak on the run the next day. So and this was on after my 300 warm up swim. So
yeah, and that's really tough too if you don't have the time to warm up. Because I saw something similar when I was doing the run lactate testing. On my first like 3-minute interval, lactate flew up to like 5.5 in there, and then it settled back down to 1.3 afterwards. Just some people, if you don't have that ability to really process that lactate when you start without a good warm up, easing into it, it goes sky high pretty quickly.
Yeah, there was a lot of cool stuff that I learned about that too, and then just my body in general, and the difference. And it was really neat too, because this is a U.S. Olympic elite level triathlete coach starting a new age group, podium coaching group business, and trying to understand how that testing can be done virtually and things like that. So we were getting a lot of content for them to use, and a lot of it was just to figure out this new testing system. This lactate testing contraption was a $40,000 box and mask and all this. So it's like, running around the track with that thing on me was like, do not trip, do not fall. But it's really neat, just the whole science behind it. The amount of data points you get per second, and when you're wearing the mask and things like that, it's just out of this world, and an experience I never thought I would have in my life. And to be a part of that was really cool. But then to start to understand how long it would take me to flush my lactate if I was like going 10 seconds too fast or 20 seconds too fast, and the difference in where it took to get to the peak, finding that peak, testing, and then it drops, and then, okay, let it flush, get back below 3.5, go again. And that's kind of the whole protocol behind this that we were using with the inside software guys over in Switzerland, and what they had built. And they've got now like 10,000 different athletes' data points. So their system just keeps getting stronger and stronger. And that protocol is just tried and tested now. And to be a part of that was really neat. But as an age grouper, you've got to make some adjustments. It takes a little bit more time. So the warm-ups and things like that have to be done a little differently. Walking down and back, and like even around the pool, I had to walk a couple of times. We tried to get my lactate to flush, but swimming is just a problem, and now I got drills to work on. So we were able to get my coach tested, and she found out some things that she needs to work on drill-wise, and a lot of her hard efforts were similar to her average efforts, and there wasn't a difference in speed and things like that. And the lactate testing shows that based off of your speed and your time, but there wasn't any difference either in her lactate numbers over the different efforts too. So something she's got to work at. And this is a Kona podium like challenger every year too. I mean, in her 50s, pushing crazy numbers in what she's done for her career. So really neat to be around her, Benny, and to be around that whole experience. So the pool did not go as well as we had hoped, at least in terms of getting my numbers. But I know what I need to work on now, and I'm going to be doing a lot more drill work, and that's okay with me because I knew I needed it. Now I know I needed it even more, and that's what this whole trip for me was too, is getting what I need to work on before Oceanside. And if I can get out of the water without spitting an 8.8 or higher lactate out, it'll make my bike a lot better too. So Definitely. That was a bad start, but also at the same time, great start, and just a really neat experience. So I think when we went, and then we went from the pool over to, I went over to Psychologic and got to meet Porrick McGlynn, one of the top bike fitters in the US, if not the world. And some of the top pros have used him, flown from everywhere in the country to get to, and wow. One of the coolest human beings I've ever met, and coming from a 45-year-old age grouper, not really competing for podium positions anytime soon, and this man who's working with Ben Canute and all the top pros for 20 plus years now. And he spent an hour and a half with me getting to know my body, my past injury history, what my physique was like standing, sitting, lying down on a yoga table, chiropractor table, and just figuring out where my imbalances were. About an hour and a half before we even got on the bike that he created to fit people. And I was there probably 3.5, 4 hours total, and found out, my bike is unfittable to the position I need to be in, because it's old and it's not capable of going out far enough out over on my wheelbase without being unsafe. It'll be a great trainer bike when I get there. But it was really neat to see. And if you look at some of my social media stuff, the difference in the original position to the final position that I'm hoping to get to, if I'm able to find a bike that works before Oceanside, is going to be instrumental in a lot of things, and getting me faster and saving watts, obviously. But at the same time, we figured out he said to me right off the bat before I even got on the bike, he's like, do you have like abductor cramps when you get off the bike onto the run? I said, yeah, it's not just sodium, is it? He's like, no, you're balancing yourself with a lot of the different positions that you're in. and your hip flexors are a little off, and you're not sitting directly center on your saddle. And we saw that on the saddle pad impressions that he's got. I was completely off to the left side and not on the right. So he's like, yeah, you're going to be able to run without any of those abductor problems too. And it's not just nutrition problem. And that's going to be huge, because mile 1 at Oceanside last year, I was completely cramping up and fought that for 12 and a half miles. So it was that insight, just hearing how he talks and treated me like I was a pro the whole time was just unreal. And I just kept tapping myself. Like, am I still here? Am I really here? And they're attached to a physical therapist in the same building. And he brought me over there to start working on some of those hip flexor stretches and things like that. So I've got some homework to do there and really start to open up and get some balancing back in my body, because the left side and right side were completely off. And just little things like that. Yeah. And he's like, everyone's like that. I mean, everyone's got imbalances somewhere, but you don't know it. And it's not major, but there's a lot of things that have been, my body's just adjusted to over time, from injuries and whatnot, that you've got to start to recorrect and change the mind and the body and how it reacts. And that's going to help my run, as well as not worrying about the abductors, but my run and my gait and things like that too. So just man, it made me. And then when I got on my bike, that the next day we did a shakeout bike ride after the run, and I'll get into the run, but it was immediate. As soon as I got on my bike in that old position, I was like, wow, my shoulders are cramped. I'm cramped. You can just tell from being in a really comfortable position that's good for my physique, going back to the cramped position. So, hey, everyone, go get a bike fit, no matter what. If you go see Pork, good, congrats, but find somebody in your area to go get a bike fit.
And that's huge. You'll see people spend 10 grand on this fancy bike that's super aero and not spend the money on getting a bike fit done. And you're either going to end up injured or be giving away a ton of time. Or like you said, and something I tell athletes all the time is, if you're cramping early on the bike, it's not sodium. Most of the times, if you're cramping on the bike, it's not sodium unless you're in extreme conditions. We all have so much salt in our daily diet anyways, and you're taking some along the way. It is that fatigue in the muscles from being overexerted, used for a harder effort for a longer period of time than they have before, or in ways that they don't move well, that is causing those cramps. And I'm so glad that you got some answers there and saw that there are ways to fix those imbalances and ways to adjust your bike fit so that you can feel so much better on the run. It's absolutely possible.
And towards the end of the bike too. I mean, there's so many different things that come into play there, and it was just obvious for me to feel that, hear that, and then for them and bring over the mechanic, and it's like, how much further out can we get him, like, safely? And there's just no way. So if you do have an older bike, a lot of them can't get out far enough. And I've got a great bike, but it's older and it can't adjust to the way they want to get you now in the aero world. And now, especially with even a little bit more of the tilted bars, they're putting you out even further because you don't have to have that longer arm position. So now you're up, but your body has to be out further too. So I can't safely do that on my current bike. And otherwise I'd be going up over, corners, anything you're talking about in Oceanside when you're hitting 40 plus miles an hour and things like that. No.
Well, stay tuned. You're on the Mana team, and we might have some announcements there soon. Mana team members, or if you're interested, we might have some announcements coming out there that might be beneficial.
I've held off making a lot of purchases, knowing that there are some announcements coming too. So looking forward to that. Helmet being one of them. A lot of different pieces there that I need to, for my own safety, buy, because my aero helmet, the old teardrop, is not is not going to last much longer, and nor is it helping me on the aero position either. So, so that was just an unbelievable experience being there. Look up Park. We're hoping to have him on the podcast down the road too, which would be really cool. So keep your eyes out for that coming down the road. The next morning, up early, went to the Arizona State track and got warmed up and got to watch my coach do her protocol and her workout. And that was a lot of 600s after a mile warm up, a couple 600s at different paces, just to kind of set in where the lactate levels were at different paces, and then finishing with an all out 800, which I don't know if I've ever done an all out 800 at any point for time or just other than playing around maybe with some friends and stuff, because I didn't run track in high school or anything. So doing the 600s felt great. I went out at my first 600 was around a 7-minute pace. The next one I did, I think, around an 8-minute pace, and then right in the middle around 7:26, 7:30, and that kind of set where my lactate levels were on those efforts. And then I was able to run, for me, a PR in the 800 at about a 5:14 pace. I think I did it in like 2:45 or something like that, which was also pressure packed, because in the midst of my coach doing her testing and then getting that system off of her. Now, granted, I'm wearing a harness with a $40,000 box strapped to me and a mask, and
fully relaxed.
This mask is state of the art too. Like, it literally, I mean, I've done VO2 max testing on a bike in a lab, and it's and you've done it too, Jenna. It's hard to breathe and know how that's going to feel when you're pushing watts and running faster paces than you've ever run before and ramping up. And this mask, I mean, the only reason I knew it was there is because the strap would like flap a little bit, but no problem with breathing whatsoever. I had my sunglasses on for all but the last effort. And the only reason I took it off there is because it's strapped over your head, and the sunglasses kind of got a little bit pinched as the day went on. So I took them off. But yeah, really, really cool technology. And it's taking, I think, like 500 data points every second or something like that. And with all of the carbon that you're letting out, and it's just really neat, and was able to push a PR for me. Found out and really what we're looking for is where are you most efficient, and what paces and how high is your VLA max, or how low is your VLA max, what is your VO2 max, and then where's that efficiency level, and then what do we need to do coming out of that training wise to get those numbers to allow you to peak before your next race. So for me, my VO2 was decent, in the mid 50s, I believe. Overall, my last effort was in the 60s on the VO2. So for somebody who's still somewhat new to endurance sports and things like that, I was pretty happy with that. What I didn't realize is how high my VLA max had gotten. And so I was surprised, intrigued by all of that. So my protocol coming out of that training for Oceanside is going to be to lower my VLA max, do a little bit more of the aerobic endurance work, bring up my VO2 max, drop the VLA max, find that happy sweet spot, and in that, find that pace that I think right now my threshold based off the testing was around 7:42 pace. Just with a little tweak of a percentage here and there, with some training over the next 3 months, I can drop that to a low 7 threshold pace. And that's going to be really neat to do. And now you're talking 30, 40 seconds. You talk about a half marathon or marathon, how much time you dropping? I think we've talked about me attempting for a BQ. I think that's going to get me there. So, and it's not, that was conservative. And so really neat stuff that I'd never thought about. And then you get into the bike side of things, and there's so much research now being done about, is FTP the way to go? And it's kind of the older method. And now with some of this lactate testing, VLA and VO2, there's so many different ways to maximize your potential as an endurance sport athlete, whatever it is you're doing. So I then got on the bike the next day, and after doing an amazing shakeout ride in the area we were going to be doing our testing, and riding in Arizona is insane. It's beautiful. It was really cool. Just the three of us went out, and then when I saw the hill that we were going to be riding up efforts on, and it was 6-minute effort, 6-minute effort, 6-minute effort, and then a 3-minute all out. And so very similar to the running effort. The bike was the same thing. We got the ears pricked again, and no mask for the bike ride, just the ears on the lactate. And we're able to go at a pretty decent wattage, and it was all about what watts you were pushing for the bike. So I think I was around 260, 280 on my first 6-minute effort. And then we kept dropping it down to find out where the different level ceilings were for me. And then the last effort was at like 140. And I was like, my heart rate barely moving. And going up a hill at 140 for 6 minutes was also another different test of patience. But it's all in locking this in. And then a 3-minute effort uphill all out was just really, really cool. And it was absolutely gorgeous weather the whole time we were there. This was on Saturday, so it was busier. We're in an unbelievable riding area. Like every parking lot you looked at was packed with cars with bike racks that are worth more than my my bike. And it was just, what a cool area to be around and driving and riding around. And I think I pushed about 350 on the 3-minute all out effort. 352 was my average. And about a minute and a half in, the car went flying by me saying, all out, go, go, go. And I was like, oh man, I'm already 90 seconds into this. I thought, I was like, crap, I should be going faster. So I think the first half and the second half were a little different, but now it's one of those things. Again, once you do the test, you're like, all right, can I go back and do that again? Can I go back and do that again? I know I can do better. And so I think I should have been closer to 400, knowing how I felt after the 3 minutes, but I definitely gave it my best on that day. And my threshold numbers are way lower than I thought, but I've also been doing a lot of running, and that was the marathon training. So the bike numbers 3 or 4 months ago are way different than they were when I was just out there. So now back to a lot more bike training and different numbers and getting that up. So swim, bike, run have been determined in where I need to go with training. And that was the goal of this whole thing. And to realize I can handle my bike, because it was windy that day too. So riding at 35, 40 miles an hour in the crosswinds and winds and stuff, I now know all the things that you've been talking about. And man, you immediately go from pedaling, trying to go faster, to like, all right, let me just hold on and lean back as much as possible so I'm not out over my front. Wow, it's crazy. I think coming back down that hill, I just rode 3-4 efforts on 21 minutes of coming back down that same hill. I had a 0 cadence and 0 watts for about 5 minutes. Just hold on to the bottom. And then going back, I had all that dopamine after doing the test. And I had it was about a 25-30 minute ride was our warm-up ride from the parking lot out there. So I had that 25-30 minute ride back, and I was like, you know what? I'm warmed up now. There's a hill coming. Let me see what I can push max effort watts, 15 seconds. And nowhere near the 1,000 or 1,100 on the Peloton that I've done. But I got it over 800 and averaged over 600 for 15 seconds, which was cool just to see what I could do.
Especially after some hard efforts beforehand, not too shabby.
Yeah, not too shabby. So all in all, just an amazing experience, a lot to learn, a lot that we did learn. And now I can tweak my training for the next 3.5 months is what I've got until Oceanside, and see if we can go from 5:45 down to 5 hours and figure it out. So I got a lot of work to do on the swim though, that's for sure.
Oh, that is awesome. You know what? The fun part though is the bike and the run. You can make up a lot of time a lot faster. Like you saw, you have tons of potential there for that to come up. And especially if you get into a bike where you can be in a really optimal position, that will get you even more speed there. But swimming is one of those things you just need to keep trucking, just keep going after it, focus on all those drills, swimming slow for a lot of it just to focus on the right form. And it takes time. It takes a lot of time.
It does take a lot of time. And the other thing with the bike fit that I learned too is protocol wise, you would probably think I'm like 58 centimeters, but each bike's different and each fit's different, and can the front end tilt and things like that. But a lot of my height at 6'2" is in my torso. So I need it to be even longer. And a lot of 58 centimeter bikes don't have the capability of getting out as far as I need them to be. So Now it narrows down how many are out there, and they didn't make as many bikes for the Jans and the Matt Sharps and the Josh Vernons of the world that they make in the 54, 56 and below centimeter sizes, because there's only like 3 or 4 or 5% of us out there in the triathlon world. So they're not mass produced and they're harder to find. And then the rare ones tend to be a little bit more money. So I've got my eyes on an opportunity right now that I'm working on, and hopefully we'll be able to lock that in around the beginning of the new year and see what I can get. And then I can start training on my current bike. So we'll get it on the trainer. I got dual-sided power pedals for the first time. So that was neat. My left-right balance was right there. I think at worst was 48-52, but for the most part, it was right around 50-50.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's funny. It was actually that left-right power balance that I noticed I had like something had gotten out of whack in my hips. It had been pretty even for a while. And all of a sudden I was at like, was it 42-58 kind of thing? And it was just like, ooh, okay, this isn't good. And when you have that previous data and know, okay, normally it's pretty balanced. It's like, okay, that's a good sign. Go get some treatment, see what's going on there, because something's going on there. And you can kind of work those out a lot sooner instead of it turning into an injury from just staying in that horribly unbalanced position for a long time.
And that goes through like, I mean, it's true for everything that we do, is the consistency. As long as you've got data, and we spent a lot of time talking about with Pork. I talked a lot about, like, because I have a Whoop, and he's used the Whoop, he's used an Oar, and it doesn't really matter what data you're getting or what data you like or prefer, and which one's better than the other. It really comes down to which one are you using consistently, and how is that data changing, and how are you reacting to it? And it's the same with the power pedals and things like that. If you are adjusting to the changes that it's telling you that are going on, that's what really matters, and reacting to that. So, I mean, I got home from my red-eye flight and I had a 2% recovery. My Whoop knows that I only slept an hour and a half on the flight. So.
No, fair enough. Oh, it sounds like an epic weekend. And it's just so fun to kind of geek out on that stuff with people who are as into performance and sport as you are. Being around those people, it just really gets you fired up and motivated like nothing else.
Man, you should have seen this spreadsheet that Parker had. I mean, it was like, we got done all of the testing. We went and grabbed some brunch, and like we closed the brunch place down, so we had to switch to another table, and he's still going through the laptop and the data points that this thing has, and then graphing it, and you plug it all into the inside software, and then all of a sudden it punches out your numbers. And it's amazing how it takes all of that data over the 3 days and then extrapolates it into what your numbers are and then what the training protocols need to be. So last night, this is how strange or how different it is now for me, especially on the run so far, which is what I did last night. I had a 60-minute run, and I did my last shakeout run at about an 8-minute pace with my coach for 3 miles before we all went to the airport on Saturday night. Sunday night, my run back home was a 60-minute run at an average pace of 10:57.
Dialing in according to lactate.
With 6 striders, thankfully, that I got into like the 640 range, but the majority of the run was at 11:19 pace, and my heart rate for me was way low still. And it was like, for the first time though, I had a zone 2 96% of the time heart rate run. And okay, well, that's the number we need to change. And
yeah. And that's something I see so often with newer athletes getting into endurance sports, is just they don't have that foundation. Because you always, when you get into running, you want to make it feel like you're doing something. So often people push into that kind of gray zone, that zone 3 tempo kind of effort all the time, and don't build that foundation. But it is crazy the difference when you do. When I started working with my coach, I had run for 4 months, fractured my pelvis, and started running again. So had no background, and he made me do like approach a ton of zone 2 from the very start. It was maffetone method at that point. And it was crazy. My running pace went from like 11-minute miles to 7:30 at the same heart rate over, it took a couple years, but like that is a drastic difference when you're still burning that fat for fuel. It's easy on your body. it really, really is worth the time. It just is one of those things that takes time and mileage and more time.
And the cool thing for me, and I buy into this stuff. You give us geek stuff, we're going to buy into it because somebody else smarter than us figured it out that it's going to actually maximize your potential. So, hey, I just ran a great PR marathon, and now you're telling me that I can drop that number if I'm running slower for more of my training. Okay, I'll do that. It'll not be as fun, but it's going to be a lot more fun when you throw that medal around and I get to ring a bell or whatever the heck the PR thing is that day. So yeah, I'll put in the work. And hey, at the same time, I still get to go do a lot of VO2 max threshold sprint training too, because we got to keep that number there. And it is all about finding that balance and how much carbs are you burning, how much fat are you burning, and get that number to where you're not burning one or the other too much. And I'm going to burn a lot of fat on these slower runs, and that's going to drop my body fat, which was at 18.4%, which I was happy with. And my body composition was right where it needed to be, but I can bring that down a little bit. And if I can bring 18.4 down closer to 15, that changes all the other stuff without even doing any running. So now you get better at the running, and then it's now you're talking exponential. So
yeah,
really, really cool stuff.
I don't know if they talked about it in there, but there's actually been a number of studies about being able to manipulate your fat burning capability with actually what you're eating. So just having that higher fat diet will really kind of help shift your metabolism towards that fat burning quite significantly. Now, that being said, if you got high intensity, fuel with carbs, make sure you have the carbs on board. But for those long, easy, slow runs and stuff, and in your daily diet, just having a little less carbs, not low carb. Most endurance athletes do not need low carb, but just a little less and a little higher fat for fuel really has been shown to make drastic differences in your fuel utilization when you do kind of do more endurance sports.
Yeah, and that was the one piece of the whole program project that we didn't touch on this week was that nutritionist and doing that, but it is available and obviously in triathlon having a nutritionist or knowing what your nutrition needs to be is huge. So yeah, that's another piece of it. We just didn't factor it into the plan while we were out there, but man, I wanted to go move to Arizona, but that's not happening. To be able to wake up and it's like 45, 50 degrees, which is great weather. And then it warms up to 70 and it's 20% humidity. And it's like, I got home and my wife's a huge chapstick fan. And I always make fun of her, like, how many do we need? And I've never needed it. Well, after being in the dry air and pushing and training, I was like, I needed chapstick when I got home. So other than that, what a cool area. And just to see the amount of people out and about working out, riding their mountain bikes, gravel riding, road riding, and bike lanes everywhere, and just the scenery. And I'd stop too much riding out there because I'd be too scared to take some more videos. But stopping and riding, I had one of the coolest bike lean pictures that I've ever taken. And I'm jealous of anyone who gets to live and train out there for sure.
That is awesome. It's funny you're talking about that lactate from, I've started to do a little bit at home testing in there. And from that initial test I did, I'm in the complete opposite spectrum in there from the years and years of like foundational work and volume and stuff. I have to run faster than I've been running to try to get some of these adaptations, not even going into threshold or tempo and anything. The top of my zone 2 is so much higher than we thought it was. So it's been really interesting. I've been doing some kind of spot lactate testing and it's like, okay, I feel like I'm working pretty solidly here, but still the lactate will be at like 1.3. And I'm like, oh, okay. That's not exactly high.
Nope.
It's been interesting. The pace at some of those, or I guess the lactate at some of those higher paces has dropped significantly even in the last like 5 weeks since I've done that test, just kind of switching up the training, running more, running faster and doing some more intensity in there has completely shifted what that looks like already. So going to go into a little bit of run block and kind of retest on that same protocol in the new year. But it's just, that being said, it's just so cool once you have that information on either side from coming from where you're coming from, where I'm trying to dial this in, just having that information is so powerful to be able to really dial in the training and make sure you're making the most of the time you have to train, because, we're not pro athletes. We can't just go spend 40 hours doing whatever we want for training, rest, and recover. So being able to really dial it in makes a massive difference.
It does. And I learned a little bit of that too with my numbers compared to my coach's numbers. Benny's a Kona qualifier, was at Kona, was at Lati, competing for podium positions. And we come out of this test and she's like, I don't have any speed. I got to do a ton of speed work coming out of this. And I'm the opposite. And I've been running marathons and things like that, but it was just really neat to see the difference. But then for the two of us to go out and train together and be able to do a lot of stuff together and get to know each other for the first time in person, which was also fun. But this is one of your top level athletes who used to be a pro and in her 50s, still crushing it. And she needs to eat more. So Benny, keep eating. Too lean. We got to get those numbers up. Just the small changes that you can make and what a difference it will make in your next race and in your life and in your performance. So you're right. I mean, it is different for each person too. And that's where, like, yeah, I can go sit on a bike for 20 minutes and do an FTP. It's crazy how well that training can work, but there's another level out there. And it's also expensive too, because I think each one of those tips is like $4 or something like that when you prick your ear. And then you're like, why isn't my lactate not peaking yet? And then you got to throw another one in there and you're like, you got to find that peak. And then when it comes down, like, all right, fine, okay, great. Now I can save some money.
Yeah. And then trying to test at home, I screw up a lot of them. And it's like, oh.
Ding, ding. Here's my wallet.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but it's worth it. It's totally worth it. And it'll actually reduce the amount of doubt that you have in your training too. And a lot of us are like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Well, there's a reason behind it now that you might have a little bit more confidence in and buy into and get it done the way you're supposed to.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, FTP is great as a foundational kind of way to measure output and really dial in some of those efforts compared to heart rate, because it is a lot more static, but you can absolutely go deeper from there. Some of this lactate testing is pretty cool.
Yeah, I was happy with the entire week and the entire experience and everyone I got to be around, and finished it off with a nice dinner at a golf course, and got on the plane and it got home to 60-degree weather, but it's pouring rain and and blowing sideways. But not going to get to enjoy that outdoor training like I did this past week for the next 3 months. But I have no problem training indoors, thankfully.
No, fair enough. And speaking of training indoors, if anyone wants to work on that FTP and train indoors, I'm rocking and rolling with these indoor virtual cycling classes. And we've actually got something cool going on. If you do a ride on demand or live before Friday, December 22nd, you're entered to win a Mon Endurance Tri Bundle, including a tri suit, and it's got about $650 worth of stuff and cool things there, or you could win a Mana cycling jersey. So come check it out. It's free to go ride. All I'm asking for is your thoughts, what you guys like, what you don't like. But jump on before end of day Friday and you'll be entered to win. So go check it out. I'll put a link in. It has been so much fun. I actually just changed everything up. I've got a little cycling studio room that's separate to where I do most of my training. I've got another.
Yeah, you just added another project to the project.
I know. I had a rest day today, so I decided to paint most of my paint cave, which I'm not good at rest days. I'm not good at rest days. But no, it's fun. Before I was just using my laptop screen, and we had some rides like where we had 15 people on there, and when you have that many on a little laptop screen, they're just all itty bitty. I'm like, okay, well, that's less fun. So I got a bigger TV, we'll say, on a stand. So now I can see all the athletes training in there. I can see their power. I can see what they're doing. So I can actually coach them live when they're at the live workouts, which is such a blast, and harass them if they're not in zones. I mean, that's my job as a coach. See the look of suffering on the hard intervals and the smiles when they're done. It makes it even more fun. But
I have to hop in one of those once I get, if I get my trainer set up soon, I'll have to hop into one of your sessions because it looks way too fun. And I'm all about the community type sessions, as we all know with my love for the Peloton world, but it's a whole different level of having you out there as a coach and, have a chance to win one of those Mana Tri bundles. I'm a recipient of those Tri bundles. They're amazing. I actually, when we get the footage of my bike testing, you'll see me in one of the former Mana kits and looking as aero as I possibly can with my apparel. That's for sure.
Excellent. That is wicked. And stay tuned. We might be waiting to find out next week. I'll know for sure. But we might be doing some more aero testing with the Mana Tri suits and equipment and everything. That's one thing that I really appreciate about their Tri suits, their clothing, is it is actually aero tested to make sure that it is at the top end, most competitive. We're working with a number of pro athletes, and we've got a bunch more announcements that are coming up soon there. But they are trying to win races on the top end of the spectrum, so they want to know that the clothing and the tri suits are fast too. So we're gonna do some more fun stuff dialing that in, and may have a weekend similar to yours, kind of dialing in a few things on the aero and bike fit and all that fun stuff. But fingers crossed, still have to confirm everything. It'd be a fun way to kick the new year.
You can definitely ask Philip what his experience was with pork too, because he went and got his fit there at Psychologic. So it's not just top level pros or people who have access like me for once in a lifetime type thing. It's up and down the spectrum that he deals with, which was really, really neat. And to see that he had some pictures with Philip was kind of cool too.
Very cool. I love it. It's just, it's funny for how big the sport is, how far the reach is around the world. It really is a small community, and the people who are doing what they do well stand out and people talk about it, and you definitely see some familiar faces around, which is awesome.
Yeah. We talked a lot of cycling too. He was intrigued by our Vuelta love and our Tour de France love, and he was like, "Man, Sepp, I don't know what Sepp was thinking in the Vuelta." He's like, he almost let his other teammates win. He's like, "Wait, Sepp, just go, Sepp, go. You're better than them."
So Gacha is going to be doing the Giro.
That's amazing.
So that is amazing.
Early.
Yeah, I know. See if you can do that double, the Giro Tour double. Be so good to see them go jump into that too and have them battle out first, and then Roglic will be like, "You guys tie yourself over there. I'll get ready for the Tour de France with my new team."
Yeah.
Anyways, we won't go too much into the geeky cycling stuff. Let's roll on to our social media post of the week. What do we got, Josh? What's happening in the social media world?
Well, I didn't have much opportunity this week, clearly. So I did throw a quick reel up there right before we hopped on the podcast that kind of just goes through some of the stuff that we went through. But I will make sure I get a little bit better of a video recap. And so check out my social media and you'll see the latest reel up there. So shameless plug.
Absolutely.
But I will be sure to be putting up some more footage from the week, and you'll get to see exactly how cool some of this stuff is that I had an opportunity to do. And hey, look, I've been in triathlon for a very little time compared to a lot of you, and this type of stuff is out there for people, and no matter what level you're at. So feel free to message me if you've got any questions on it. Message Jenna; she knows what all of this data means and all that too. So you've got a lot of different access and means to find out what we're doing. And by all means, send in your questions to the podcast too, so we can discuss this stuff. We'll probably take a little break around the holidays and the new year, but we'll be back in the beginning of the year and have some amazing guests too. So social media is going to pick up again as we get into racing. So for now, you get to go look at mine.
There we go. Check it out there. We'll be sure to share it, and I'll stick all of our social media links in the show notes here too. Definitely good to see what's going on. And yeah, like I said, we're going to take a break after this until the new year. We've got some guests that we're lining up, and we're going to have some fun there. We got a quick little what the F moment because, again, there's not a ton going on in the triathlon world at this point. But
other than giveaways.
There's lots and lots and lots of giveaways. I mean, okay, I might be doing a giveaway right now, but
we had to join.
I know, right? Get on the bandwagon. Oh, man. The one thing that caught my eye here for What the F was there was an interview that Lance Armstrong did talking about how he never went positive for EPO on any tests. And one thing that surprised me, shockingly, haven't spent much time looking into EPO, the effects, the half-life, or anything like that. It turns out there's only like a 4-hour half-life from when you take it to where you're going to test positive, according to Lance or the testing at that time. I don't know if that has changed since then, but that makes it almost even more surprising that people are getting popped for EPO if the half-life is that short between when they can take it and be tested. Like, that's
that means
crazy.
they're taking it like while they're on the bike, because these are like 5-hour rides they're doing. So if they're getting tested after a race of the Tour de France, I mean, okay, well, that's one thing. But yeah, I didn't realize the shelf life was so short.
Yeah, out of competition testing, and that was really interesting to hear. And no wonder he didn't get any positive tests that way. They have it so dialed in, and really, that makes it even more surprising that like Colin Chartier got popped for it. Like, you would think he would hold off or just not answer the door
For an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it's been plus.
So it's crazy.
I'm in the bathroom.
Yeah, right. I'd be here a while. I know they're doing a lot more with kind of because EPO is obviously not the only thing that people are using to get an unfair advantage, and they are doing a lot of things with the blood passports to track a lot of other markers within their blood. But that was something that really stood out to me. I was like, that seems crazy to me. So this year seems like it's been really marred with a bunch of doping, either accusations, actually being popped for doping. A few triathletes this year have been popped for doping. And it really kind of makes you wonder a little bit more, which I hate to say, but finding out stuff like this, that there is such a small time frame, really doesn't help instill much more confidence there. And then hearing about some big name athletes where I think Sam Long was taken off of the testing they can do at a competition where they show up kind of unannounced. He was taken off the what's that called, locations thing. But anyways, it just, hopefully, you still want to believe that triathlon is mostly clean in there, at least at the top end. It is good to see some people are being caught because that means they're doing something about it. But I don't know. Hopefully,
You've been podium. I mean, you've been competing and winning. And I asked this question to my coach, Benny, when we were out there too, because she's always competing and has been for a long time. How many times has she been tested? And I think she said about 3 times. And I mean, you're talking about somebody who's been winning for a long time. And she's like, it is a little bit nerve wracking and then they will take your blood test as well. It's not just urine and things like that. And then it's nerve wracking waiting for that result email to come and stuff. But I was surprised for her to be tested on one hand. I mean, that was crazy for as long as she's been competing.
It's saying, like, I've never been tested and won a world championships, won at Ironman, of course on the amateur side of things, but right. Yeah, there's really not a lot, especially and I almost think there's a lot more, like we've seen some recent surveys come out from years ago where a lot of people are knowingly or unknowingly doping or taking banned substances, which on the amateur side just makes it even more pathetic. Like, really, to get your first place medal as an amateur, you're gonna cheat. Man.
And you're not going to become a pro, most likely. Right. So what are you trying to do? How's that PR feel?
Yeah, exactly. That seems so empty and ridiculous. But anyways, we'll see. There's still lots going on here. We probably won't know the results of the investigations going on until could be years. Like, these things take a long time, whether they find any positive markers or not. Then it has to go through arbitration. So that's why we hear about these bans 2 years later, because there is a process to, give the athletes a chance to defend themselves if they're not guilty of it. But I don't know. Hopefully we'll see. I don't know if I want more or less positive tests next year. I think that's what I'm battling with. It's like, I want to know it's clean, but I want to know they're testing people and catching the people who aren't clean. So
we want to know it's clean and people are getting tested. We want them to pass their tests.
Yeah, exactly.
We just want to hear that you've been tested. Please let us know.
And maybe the thing. More transparency around the testing and seeing that people actually are being tested regularly out of competition, because you got to be pretty dumb to get to fail a doping test in competition. Like that is seriously.
You know the date.
Yeah, exactly. So be curious to
Well,
see
on a positive note, the one thing I forgot to mention too is this was also my first trip using my own bike bag. And
awesome.
I was able to break down my bike. I was able to set my bike back up. I did have a little tweak by the mechanic in my derailleur, but other than that, I was able to accomplish that. And that Cycon bag is great. And I did realize for a bigger bike too, it's probably, I pushed the limits in getting it in there. So I had to make some adjustments with my seat post and things like that. But the Cycon bag was great. So thanks, Matt, on Team Mana for lending that to me. I'll probably be getting my own, depending on the next bike and if I do get that, and seeing if it fits in that bag. But that was a great experience. Cost me nothing at the Delta check-in counter, and it arrived. My flight's flying out there. I was an hour early going. I was about a half hour early coming back. I was at my Airbnb in Arizona before I was supposed to land, and that included getting the bike.
When does that
a little different than your experience.
Oh man, I just booked my flights for the Mana camp and I'm already stressing it'll get left on.
It is doable, so don't get too stressed over flying with your own bike then.
No, definitely. And honestly, I am not a bike mechanic or anything near it whatsoever, and I've traveled with my bike for years. Yeah. This is the first time I've had any issues with it not showing up, but really it's not as difficult as you think it is to travel with your bike. I know a lot of people are more stressed with all this tri-bike transport stuff that they will have to get bike bags and start to break it down. But just, worst case, take pictures of where everything is before you start and take pictures every step of the way and just go in reverse. You'll be fine.
And there's definitely some keys too, because I'm not going to put a YouTube video together, and there's plenty for people to watch on how to pack a bike bag and things like that. But a couple of things that I learned with TSA and things like that is just make sure your zippers are in a spot. Even with the lock, they've got a universal key and they unlock it, but make sure the zippers are in a spot where your bike bag can open easiest and not where it's tightest. So make it easy for them to get in and out. Make sure your straps are tucked away, but throw an air tag in the zipper pocket on the outside of your bag too, if you got a soft one. And I was able to track it each way. Now, it got on the plane late in Boston, so I was a little nervous flying out there, but it made it and was there early. So, yeah, there's a couple tricks, and even like where you put the zippers on the bike wheels on the inside and things like that. Mm-hmm. Put everything at the top in the easiest location for TSA to get to.
Definitely. Absolutely. You don't want them having to, if you have it packed to the gills, they're not going to put the puzzle pieces back together the same way you will or with the same care. So definitely make it easy there.
I think I sent you the text. I was right at 49. Literally I put the bag down at the check-in counter, and it was 49.50, and it kept bouncing back and forth. I was like, cha-ching, score. I had thrown a few extra things in there and weighed myself before I went, and it was right on.
That's awesome. Well, that's it for us for today, for this year. We will be back in the new year for some more fun stuff, and definitely stay tuned. Feel free to reach out anytime if you have any questions you want us to answer, or check us out on social media. I'll put those links in there. Until the new year, have a happy holidays and happy new year.
Yeah, you as well, and good luck with all your training, and we'll see you all in 2024.